"What does the master know about this camp?" Charming demanded. The hobgoblin spat at him. "Nothing yet, traitor, but you're a fool if you think you can hide anything from him for long. You speak of the master as if you know him. Who is he?" Renrhoda asked. Sabrina's heart skipped a beat. She too had wondered about the master's identity. She often feared she had walked past him on the street, or worse, that he was someone she knew. The hobgoblin snorted a laugh. "I haven't earned the honor of meeting him, but one day I will prove my worth and kneel at his feet." "So, you take orders from someone you have never even met?" Snow asked. "His is a glorious plan for Everafters," he barked at her. "That is all I need to know." "Not all Everafters," Miss White corrected him. "Only the ones willing to lick his boots." "It's you that turned your back on Everafters when you allied yourself with the Grimms and the rest of the human filth," the hobgoblin said. "These are the very people responsible for our imprisonment. You should not befriend them, Snow White. You should help us exterminate them." "So that's the master's plan?" Charming pressed. "Murder the Grimms?" "No, he has found another solution to break us out of this tired little town," the commander said smugly. "He will destroy the barrier that traps us, and he will march freely across the nations, recapturing the lands and treasures that are rightfully ours." "And I suppose enslaving the world is part of the plan too?" Mr. Canis asked. "Naturally," the hobgoblin said. Charming rolled his eyes. "I've heard enough from this fool." "Was he searched?" Mr. Seven stepped forward and handed Charming a filthy burlap sack. The prince emptied it onto a nearby table, and the group gathered around to study each item. A rusty dagger covered in dried blood, a couple of loaves of moldy bread, a compass, a map of the woods, and a small pocket mirror. Charming held up the mirror with a smirk. "I had no idea hobgoblins were so vain." The hobgoblin chuckled. There was something arrogant in his laugh, as if he knew a secret. Charming turned to Granny Rhoda. "Mrs. Grimm, I have a favor to ask." The children stepped back from the window. "What were they talking about?" Daphne asked. "I couldn't see or hear anything." "The master," Red said. "Ugh, gross," Daphne said. "He wants to take over the world," Puck added. "Been there, done that." "Did they say who the master is?" Daphne asked. Puck shook his head. "Not even a clue." "Wait a minute," Sabine said, turning to Red. "Haven't you seen the master?" Red Riding Hood looked to the ground and shuffled her feet. "You told us that you talked to him when you attacked us with the Jabberwocky," Sabrina pressed. "I don't remember," the child said in a small voice. "Sure you do," Sabrina said. She was so excited she could hardly talk. "Just think, if you tell us who he is, then Charming can send people to capture him, and no one else will be hurt." "It's blurry." The little girl clutched her head in her hands as if straining to remember what causing her physical pain. "I don't think I can." Sabrina grabbed her by the shoulders. "You have to!" Daphne stepped between them. "Sabrina, chill out. She says she doesn't remember." "She's not trying," Sabrina said. "She is trying, but your bullying isn't helping," Puck added. "Her memory is messed up. Don't you remember what Canis said? He can't remember big parts of his life when the wolf was inside of him. It's the same with Red. We'll have to think of some other way to figure out who the master is." Sabrina was furious. Who was he to call her a bully? "Maybe you should let me do the thinking around here, Puck," she snapped. I'd hate to burn out that little peanut in your head. You wish you were as smart as me. I'm brilliant, Puck said, puffing up his chest. Sabrina's face twisted in anger. Brilliantly stinky? I doubt too many people would list themselves as exceptional when their greatest talent is eating with their feet. Red watched bewildered. Are you two in love or something? Daphne started to laugh but clamped her hand over her mouth when both Sabrina and Puck glared at her. Maybe it was Daphne's amusement or Red's embarrassing question, but before she could stop herself, Sabrina blurted out the one thing she swore she'd never admit. In love? As if. How on earth he and I end up married is beyond me. I don't know how my future self held her nose long enough to get through the ceremony. Ugh! Everyone fell silent. Daphne stood in shock. Red looked bewildered. Married? Puck cried, his eyes as big as his head. Sabrina was sure she was going to hyperventilate. She closed her eyes and prayed for another ribbon time, one that would allow her to go back 10 seconds and kick herself in the rear before she opened her mouth. But no black hole appeared to whisk her away. Tell me, Puck said. It's nothing, Sabrina mumbled. Tell me. I was kidding, she lied, but she barely got it out before Puck's wings appeared. He snatched her in his arms, and soon they were both flying up into the air. Tell me what you know about the future, he shouted. Fine. Do you remember when Cinderella's husband built the time machine that nearly ate the town? Well, Daphne and I got pulled into it and saw the future and... No! Puck cried, suddenly understanding what she was telling him. We were married in the future, Sabrina confirmed. Listen, I'm no happier about it than you. You're lying. I'm a little boy. Little boys do not get married. You grew up. Puck's face fell. What would make me do that? Sabrina cringed. Me. I would never do that, Puck roared. You're already doing it, Sabrina said. Have you noticed you've gotten taller? And I heard Granny tell Mr. Canis you were going through puberty. What's puberty? What's puberty? There's no way in the world I'm explaining that to you, Sabrina cried. Drop me, I don't care. This puberty, it must be triggered by some kind of disease. You've given me your cooties, dog face. Puck's eyes turned bright with flames. I am the trickster king. I'm a villain. I am the king of loafers, the prince of low expectations, the spiritual guide for millions of complainers, criminals, and convicts. Villains do not get married, and they do not get zits. You have poisoned me, Sabrina Grimm. This means war. War, Sabrina repeated. Puck swooped down and dropped Sabrina. She landed hard on her behind. He hovered over her, flapping furiously. Yes, war, and when I'm done, you'll wish the Scarlet Hand had gotten to you first. Puck blasted into the sky like a rocket. Within a matter of seconds, he had disappeared from view. That went better than I expected, Daphne said. Uncle Jake staggered around the corner. His arm hung in a sling around his neck. He was pale and seemed to be in a great deal of pain. Girls, I've been looking everywhere for you. I need your help. Uncle Jake, you should be in bed. You need to rest, Daphne scolded. I can't. I have to go, he said. Go where? Sabrina asked. To rescue Briar Rose. Chapter 5. Uncle Jake, we're all for saving Briar, but leaving the camp is a bad idea right now. We were just out there with Mom and Dad, and we were all almost starved to death by the Scarlet Hand's goons. Sabrina said. Which is exactly why I need to find Briar. Something's wrong. She and the fairy godmother should have come here already, especially if the town is as bad as everyone is saying. Maybe they're leaving her alone, Sabrina said. The Scarlet Hand leaving my girlfriend alone? Uncle Jake asked. Not likely, Brina. She turned and shuffled across the courtyard. Daphne tried to convince Red to join them, but she was still feeling shy and scared. The sisters left her in her hiding place and hurried to catch up with their uncle. They found him entering Charming's cabin. It was dark and abandoned, except for the magic mirrors. Once they entered, Reggie appeared in his reflection. Who goes there? Oh, it's you. A little late for scurrying around, don't you think? Sorry if we woke you, Reggie. Go back to sleep, Jake said. No worries, he said, then faded away. Jake lit an oil lamp, and its light cast the cabin in a golden glow. But in the dim light, he looked tired, feverish, and old. I have to make sure she gets here safe and sound. We'll take the flying carpet to find her, he continued. Daphne, you steer. You're better at it than me, even when I'm at 100%. And what do I do? Sabrina asked. You're going to keep me from falling off the blasted thing. I'm in, Daphne said. Sabrina nodded. Me too. Should we tell Mom and Dad? Not unless you want them to forbid us from doing it, Daphne said. Then she stepped through the mirror that led to the Hotel of Wonders and vanished. Sabrina and Uncle Jake followed. With Henry's help, they navigated back to the other portal and found themselves back in the room of reflections. Mirror was there, busy gluing the broken shards from the damaged mirrors to the wall. There were hundreds of pieces, and the light bounced off them in all directions. The girls asked them to retrieve the magic carpet for them, and he put aside his work to get the trolley. So, perhaps we should agree on what we're going to tell your father about this plan, Jake said. Mirror had fetched a chair for him, and he slumped in it, looking exhausted. The girls peered at each other nervously. Do you mean you want us to lie to Dad? Sabrina asked. No, of course not, Jake said, and thought for a moment. Actually, yes. I want all of us to lie to your dad, to your father. He's been a bit of a jerk. You noticed that too, Daphne said. Hank was always the high-strung one, and very stubborn too, but he's only trying to protect his family. He's not exactly polite about it, but it's the only way he knows to keep everyone alive. Your grandfather was the same way. I'm more like Mom in a lot of ways. Impulsive? No, you, Sabrina said with mock surprise. Uncle Jake laughed. Guilty as charged. Mom and Dad used to be laid back, Daphne said. Ever since they woke up, it's been non-stop bickering or fussing each other. If I didn't know better, I would think we woke up the wrong people. Not the happily ever after you were hoping for, huh? Uncle Jake said. I'm sorry, girls. I think in all the excitement, I've forgotten how important waking them up was to you. And now to have them snapping at everyone, I wish it were different. Sabrina fought back tears but said nothing. She was glad someone else was disappointed with how the family reunion felt. Jake closed his eyes and either drifted off to sleep or passed out from the pain. Sabrina and Daphne exchanged a few worried glances, but that seems to be the end of this video. Send more later. Goodbye.